Hi guys, I'm Brianna Faherty. I'm going to be presenting on LGBTQ plus acceptance in US schools. I wanted to kind of narrow in on transgender restroom use. So to start off, according to youth.gov, research has found that LGBT youth are more likely to experience stress and fear in school than are non-LGBT youth. This is due to a non-acceptance of their sexual, gender, and other identities, and these attitudes lead to highly concerning negative outcomes for LGBTQ plus youth. I was hoping we could just watch this video real quick. It's only 3 minutes long, and it's on the no promo homo laws in the US. I wanted you guys to watch this just to get an introduction and a feel for how LGBTQ plus youth are treated and regarded in school before we dive in to the transgender community.
No promo homo laws are on the books in 8 U.S. states. These laws restrict how teachers can talk about LGBT issues in the classroom. Arizona forbids portraying homosexuality as a positive alternative lifestyle and bans teaching safe methods of homosexual sex. Alabama schools must teach that homosexuality is not a lifestyle acceptable to the general public. Utah's law prohibits the advocacy of homosexuality in schools. It's also the first state where a no promo homo law is being challenged in court. We spoke to teachers, students, and parents there.
Many teachers, because the law is vague, understand it as a gag rule, meaning they can't say anything about homosexuality at all. And what that means is that a lot of teachers aren't actually fulfilling their responsibility to keep children safe because they don't think they can intervene in anti-gay behavior.
No promo homo does affect how they deal with bullying in the classroom or even in the hallways, just because they think that they can't even talk about it in school. Last year, it was like pretty much every day. It was like, oh, you're such a queer, you're such a fag. I got pushed into walls and called like a gay or a fag.
They can't be safe because they have very few people to talk to. And until we get rid of laws like no promo homo, they're not safe.
The biggest bullying issues are centered around LGBTQ issues. And right now, we don't have the tools or the ability or the freedom to be able to have the discussions that we need to have.
These laws keep kids from learning the basics of sexuality and safe sex in health class.
When I went into 10th grade health with the knowledge of I'm bisexual, the entire thing was, oh, hey, men and women go together. Girls and boys are going to have sex. That's how it is.
The no promo homo law originally was designed to only apply to health and sex ed classes. But we're seeing the effects of no promo homo in history classes, in English classes, etc.
For an assignment on family history, Josh tried to do a presentation about his uncle, who's gay, but his teacher wouldn't allow it.
She was just saying, like, we can't talk about that. Like, gay is not something that we can actually talk about. So it was kind of hard for me because it was like, that's my family, and I'm gay. And if I can't talk about my family members, then how am I supposed to feel?
It's absolutely ridiculous that I can't talk about my own sexuality. I can't talk about who I am as a person without feeling like I'm going against the law. And every time I try to bring it up with a teacher, they also kind of brushed by it and said, sorry, we can't help you here. Go to the internet.
No promo homo laws are discriminatory and they harm kids. They should be repealed. There are kids who want to fall in love, who want to date, who want to go to prom, who want to be just as anybody else is in the school system. There's nothing wrong with being gay. And when we don't talk about it in the school system, we create a perception that there is something wrong with it.
If the no promo homo law were repealed, it would send a powerful message to our students. It would send the message to these students that they are valued, that their voice is being heard, that we care about them, and that they have a place in our classroom.
So a common theme we saw at the end of that video was just the teachers and educators and even peers wanting to show compassion for this minority group. Acceptance requires compassion, and compassion comes from the Latin term compati, which means to suffer with. Therefore, to be accepted is to have the weight of a minority's group's struggles be understood and shared by their teachers and peers in their school settings. LGBTQ plus youth are faced with many challenges in regards to this daily. Today, I'll just be exploring the various perspectives involved in just one dilemma within the realm of queer acceptance, which is the bathroom use of transgender youth in public schools. According to a poll by The Atlantic, 44% of Americans believe that society is becoming too soft and feminine, and 39% believe that society is better off when men and women stick to the jobs and tasks that they are traditionally assigned to. How might these perspectives be damaging to youth members of the LGBTQ plus community, particularly transgender youth, in regards to their education? Well, this means that these youth are not receiving the compassion they need from adults in their life. This means that a percentage of the educators they encounter are not accepting their gender identities and can deny them fundamental rights in the educational setting. We will move on to explore just one example. Transgender youth constantly face a dilemma in schools and in any public setting when it comes to their restroom use. We're just going to break it down into a couple of perspectives to see how people may react to this kind of situation. So, one instance is outlined by the prominent newspaper, The Atlantic. The article states that under an agreement with the U.S. Department of Education that took effect in January of this year, Township High School District 211 agreed to let a transgender child have access to girls' facilities by using a private changing station behind a curtain, which any of the other girls in the school were allowed to use, and they could also request further accommodation, like changing in a single stall facility or getting their own schedule completely for using the bathroom. So youth are in a constantly changing state of learning their identities and what they stand for. For transgender youth, expressing this identity can be difficult and a source of embarrassment, especially when their peers are not accepting of their identities on the basis that it is outside of the norm. Denying them the right to use the restroom is just one example of how their peers might deny their identity. This can be very destabilizing for transgender youth. On the contrary, many parents of non-transgender youth or cisgendered youth agreed with the legal proceedings, which stated that non-transgender youth could experience embarrassment, humiliation, anxiety, fear, apprehension, stress, degradation, and a loss of dignity when they come in contact with a transgender student in the restroom, and may even avoid entirely using the restroom at all to avoid this confrontation, which can lead to obvious health issues. But in my perspective, the same exact thing could be said for the transgender youth. Avoiding the restroom is not a good solution for this, for any party, whether they're cisgender or not. So then looking from a religious perspective, a Christian leader, Russell Moore, preached, "We do not see our transgender neighbors as freaks to be despised. They feel alienated from their identities as men or women. In a fallen universe, all of us are alienated in some way from who we are designed to be." So many religious people support the ban on public restroom use for transgender people because they believe in a very black and white definition of man and female that is written in the Bible. They take the Bible as God's word and don't typically stray from it. It's very hard for them to see another perspective or to see God's words in another light or to be used in a different perspective, if that makes any sense. So after hearing Moore's perspective, his quote, you can tell that he's definitely more compassionate and sympathetic towards LGBTQ youth. But many people who are religiously affiliated don't have this same compassion and can actually be a lot more harsh and to the Bible than Moore is. Another perspective I wanted to go over is that of the parents. There are two separate perspectives held by parents, and that is that of the cisgendered students and parents of transgendered youth. Though they have a commonality, which is the safety for their children. Parents of cisgendered students document their concern for their children's safety from sexual predators under the false pretense that they are transgender and are allowed by law to use a specific restroom. On the contrary, parents of transgendered youth simply want their child to feel accepted, respected, and safe in a body they feel they were not meant to be born to. So you can definitely see the concern on both sides. It's just a matter of having compassion, again, compassion for students of the other gender, and so of cisgender versus transgendered. Sorry, my computer's not working very well. So as we discussed previously and throughout this presentation, to accept a minority group's place in our society is to have the weight of a minority group's struggles be understood and shared by peers. In the school setting, this means having compassion towards LGBTQ plus youth from peers, educators, policymakers, and parents so that they can receive an equal education and feel safe and accepted in their social environments, in school environments, no matter what it is that makes them different. I choose compassion. My perspective is to have compassion no matter whether it's transgender restroom use or the no homo promo laws or whatever it is. I choose compassion. My question for you is, do you? So thank you for listening to my presentation. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me on my email. For now, I'm just going to go through all the credits for this presentation and just thank you again.